Welcome to Basecamp Office Hours. I'm Kimberly from the Basecamp Customer Success team. So excited you're here. In the chat, let us know where you're from and what industry you're in. We'll kind of refer to that as we're going along today. So excited to have you here. Office Hours is our attempt to help you guys get started with your Basecamp accounts and answer any questions that you might have. We'll also be sharing some tips, insider tips, and some new features you might even not know about. One of those features just recently got released, so hopefully we'll have time to show that to you at the end. Before we get started, I do want to introduce a few other people on our team, but I'm going to post a poll because I do want to know, for those of you who are here, what level of Basecamp user you are. So let us know that. I posted that. You should be able to post your answer there. And if you have any specific questions for us during this webinar, post them in the chat. There's a Q&A section, so if you see that question mark, just post your question and we will get to answering those. I know some of you posted some questions to us when you registered, so we'll start with some of those, but feel free to ask questions as we go along. So before we really get started and do some screen sharing, I want to introduce the rest of the customer success team. First up, I want to introduce Laura. So we'll bring her onto the stage. Hello.
Hi everyone. Thanks all for joining us today.
Laura, tell us what you do at Basecamp.
Yeah, I lead the customer success team here at Basecamp. And so for us, just a little framing, customer success always means we just want to be available when needed, that it's easy to find us and you know and can trust the kind of help we're going to offer you, which is just actionable, real guidance. So the goal today, and really kind of all the time, is just to make sure that you have what you need so that you can use Basecamp effectively. We want you to reach your goals. We want you to feel empowered and confident. So I hope you walk away today with that.
Amazing. And next, we're going to have Ashley, who is our Basecamp veteran, has been here the longest in the customer success team. Ashley, introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Ashley. I've been here for almost 6 years. I was on the support team for the majority of that time, but now I'm on this customer success team. And so the majority of my day is spent talking, having conversations with as many people as I can, but it ranges from someone who's found out about Basecamp last week to someone who's found out about Basecamp like 15 years ago. And so it's always about the customized guidance that we can give, what Basecamp can offer you, and how we can help any troubles that you might be having professionally. And so Rodrigo and I are leading these kinds of conversations and demos, and we're all so excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to let Ashley, you get set up to show your screen. Ashley and Rodrigo, who is new on our team, do most of our demos here. So they're very accustomed to answering questions on the fly and sharing their screen with us. So I'm going to pop into one of our first questions we got from a registrant, which is looking for some best practices for working on multiple projects with multiple clients. This one came from Joseph. He does construction estimating. They have lots of what they would call to-dos instead of projects. So not lots of different projects, but lots of to-dos with different clients. So maybe, Ashley, to start, you can show us some of the changing tools function. I know that's one of the things people don't necessarily know about, but it can be a game changer in terms of structuring your projects. Mm-hmm. So I'll let you share the screen, show us how you can change change tools within a project, and then we'll jump right into Joseph's question.
Awesome. Okay, let's share my screen here. Y'all should be seeing the entire window of Safari. Okay, and so here we have a Basecamp account, as you're all, I'm sure, familiar, but let's make a new project, because this is the project that this is what you'll see when you first start working in Basecamp. You are set with these 5 different tools, and sometimes it feels like that's it, but in reality, you can actually change these tools. So if this is for something where I don't need the campfire chat tool, you can turn that off. And if maybe I want to scroll down a little bit and bring it back, I can do that. But there are also some other wonderful tools here: email forwards, automatic check-ins, and my favorite, card table. These are all fantastic, so I recommend making sure that you click on that change tools option to see what exactly you need for your project. That's what makes Basecamp so flexible. And also be aware here that if the word card table isn't working for you, you can use the rename option and change this to whatever it is that you plan on doing in this particular card table, so that folks are really aware of what the function of this tool is. There is also one other thing here. If you can click on plus add another, that creates another of the tool that you've just clicked on. So if we need multiple to-do tools. Maybe we need 2 hill charts, and we can get to that. Then you can use this tool to create that. And so now when we go back to our project, you can see that we have 2 of these to-do tools. There's that card table now called video tutorials. And this is hopefully a pleasant overview of changing your tools.
That's perfect. And actually that kind of flows nicely into Joseph's question, where he has multiple to-dos, not necessarily multiple projects. He actually could have separate to-do lists or to-do tools within one main project if you wanted to. So you could have a to-do list for client A and a to-do list for client B, all within the same project.
Definitely. And I think one other thing I want to mention here too is that when you are working in these separate to-do tools, you can still use a to-do list template. And so in this area is where you can kind of set up, we can manage a new one, and we can create a new template. If every time we are doing, if we're in the construction business and we're estimating, if we have a list set up for estimating, we can make sure that we are using that same consistent list every single time by setting up a to-do list template. And so as I go back to home and I go back to that test project, and then of course back to the to-do tool, you can now use that template for estimating, and Basecamp will spin it up and build it out for you here, making it a lot easier.
Love that. And that's one of our newer features. So that's very exciting. You don't have to think about that to-do list multiple times. You just think about it once and then always have that template. Ashley, I'm going to jump to a question that is actually here live, but it's similar to a question that we got earlier, which is around privacy and how to set privacy settings on projects and how to work with clients outside and outside vendors.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that we can walk through kind of setting up clients and how we can make some to-dos private.
Yeah, definitely. And a super vital part of how you need to work with other people. Even it doesn't have to necessarily be clients. Clients can be anything, anyone that doesn't need to have 100% visibility into those projects. And so we have those options when you click on home, and when you invite people to a project, there are these 3 different roles. This one, which those folks can see everything in your project. These folks can also see everything in your project. So if you need to hide something from anyone, then go ahead and use that client option. And so you would invite someone, make sure that you're inviting them with the email address that they want to be able to use to log into Basecamp with. And so you'll follow this flow. And then once you get into a project, and we can go ahead and use the one that we were already working in, when we add people to this, you're going to look a little further down instead of that bright arrow. We're going to look to add a client to this project. And here's where I've already included a client into my account. I'll add people here, and I'll bring this person in just so that we can see if I want them to be able to see that estimating list that we already had. I can click into it, and now I have an option that I didn't have before, where this to-do list is currently private to our team. That's the default. And so if I want to be able to change this and allow the client to see this, and maybe I actually want to assign them a couple of things, I can do that once they can see this particular list. So assign these to-dos, and there we go. Now when they log into Basecamp, they can see that all these tools exist, but they can't see anything inside them. It looks just like this actually for them. And if I have another to-do list, and maybe this is internal or whatever else it is, I can keep it private to the team. And then anything on that list, they're not able to see. So they don't even know that that list exists.
That's great. And one of the questions someone had registered with earlier was how to make just a to-do list private. You really would have to invite that client into the account, but then only show that one to-do list. They could have, like Ashley showed, everything else could be private from them, but just that to-do list. Ashley, we have a question about email forwarding, which is also one of those hidden gems that I think people didn't know about. In fact, I used Basecamp for 10 years before I started working here, and I had never used email forwarding. So it is a hidden gem that maybe you could tell us about.
Let me actually pull up yet a different account, as I have quite a few from over the years. There's a wonderful example of email forward. So a lot of the time, folks will try to use Basecamp, and in the very beginnings, their clients or even some of their colleagues will just use email to kind of continue the conversation. And so when we want to redirect them into Basecamp, one of the best things you can do is enable that email forwards tool that was hidden that we saw to the start. And then you can use a very unique link. So let's pull up, and I'll share my screen in just a moment here. Let's pull up an example of how this might look, because you can do a lot more than just kind of forward the email in. So let me share the entire screen. Okay, and so in this area, what happens is that we were going to scroll down to the email forwards tool, and then we're going to click on this example. And so what happened is that I forwarded this email in from some other address, and this is the history of that conversation. So that's one email message. And then as I scroll down, this is where things get interesting. I can actually communicate with my team internally and have an entire conversation with them about whatever the email contained. And then we can decide how we want to reply back using Basecamp to the original sender. And then they can even reply back to us with whatever information that they have. And that conversation can continue. And then what I really like about this is that instead of leaving this conversation in the email forwards tool, is that we can say, all right, internally, I wrote up the details of the request here. And then when I click on this link, it'll take me to the to-do list that I have built out based on that request. So all to say that email forwards are very valuable and very, very functional. And if you ever have any questions about how to set this up or how these might work, because there's a lot of information on this page, then not only is my team available, but there is also a pleasant question mark on the bottom right-hand side. And you can always type in the word forwards and find information about it there. So we try to be as helpful as we can when it comes to every part of using Basecamp.
And what I think is so nice about the email forwarding tool is that you can have an internal conversation separate from actually responding to the email. So instead of forwarding an email to someone and then having a conversation and then replying to whoever wrote the original email, it can all stay in one place. I think that's something that's pretty consistent across the board with Basecamp. Like things stay with their heading, if that makes sense. Conversations about to-dos stay with to-dos. Conversations about files stay with files. And email forwarding is the same way. You can forward an email in and that conversation stays with that email. So hopefully that helped. I'm going to jump to Andrew and answer this question. Andrew, I know you'd asked this earlier about dependencies in scheduling. And actually, I'll have you jump in. I think what you're wanting to do is have one item depend on a second, meaning one to-do is affected by the first to-do being completed. That is something Basecamp doesn't do.
That doesn't happen in the schedule tool, nor does it happen in the to-do tool. But somewhere where you can kind of make it work is in the, let me go ahead and pull up the window for yet another account. Here is where we can look at kind of the card tables. And I'll actually go over and get a more filled out example. So here, what you can do is that you can click on these three dots in a card table inside of a column. And card table is just another way to frame your work. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's similar to in to-dos in that it's all about getting the actual work done. But here, if your work moves through phases or if something is dependent on something else, then you might want to have folks watch certain columns. So as somebody uses this card table to kind of create this design, it goes into a drafting stage. Then maybe it goes into internal feedback. And so when someone moves it into internal feedback, I am set to be notified about it. Now I moved it, so I won't be notified. But if Kimberly were to have moved it, then I would have been notified that there is something for me to look at in internal feedback. We can ask the client to look at this particular and start watching this column so that they're notified about anything that's moved over into this particular space. And then this also, different from to-dos, gives you a nice view of where things might be getting stuck. If maybe 3 things are falling under the client, perhaps we need to adjust our system, or maybe we need to work with the client a little bit more and talk with them about what's reasonable. So card tables would be my solution for dependencies.
I love the card table tool, and actually that's a great solution. Someone asked if we will share this video. Yes, actually, if you go back to this same link that you came in to join, once this is over, the video will process and it'll be posted in that same place. But yes, you can access it and share it with anyone that you would like. Next question, we want to understand how to use this scheduling function and if individuals can use them to track content schedules.
They definitely can. The scheduling function. So let's go ahead and let's pop back into, well, let's go back into that same account. And so here, maybe I have a couple of things that I want to be able to see all in one place. So the schedule will pull any kind of task, any to-do item with a due date, and it'll pull any card with a due date into this one schedule. If you only have one schedule. If you have multiple schedules, you can be a little bit more flexible. So first, we can just know that those items are going to be here. But if we need to schedule content, you can also use a combination of the card table and the schedule, really. So you can kind of keep it like this. So there's brochure copy due on this date. You can follow a similar thing for any kind of, I need to post on this particular social platform on that date. You can follow a schedule like that. You can also, maybe if we know that the entire campaign is going to last for several days, maybe I'll make it an all-day event. And so then it'll be from the 1st through the 15th or something like that. And I'll post this so that the campaign is here alongside all the other things that are due. So you can use the schedule. And then maybe if you have multiple projects that have a content calendar and not just one large one, then you can click on add this schedule to your Google, Apple, or Outlook calendar, and then it'll be there alongside anything else that you subscribe to in Basecamp. And so I think I can only share my Safari screen, but let me actually show you how this might look in.
Ashley, the queen of multiple Basecamp all at the same time.
So many screens. I have quite a lot. I just want to make sure that you can see how this might look in your external calendar, because then what happens is that you can pull your screen this over. Sorry for the delay, folks. You can pull this over into your external calendar, and we can look at things, for example, on a month view and get kind of that bigger picture view of everything happening. If I don't want to see these smaller things from these other Basecamp schedules I'm subscribed to, each one of these is a Basecamp schedule, then we can see kind of that bigger picture, or we can get into the details and see what's happening on one content calendar versus another one, versus maybe even another one. So some things are going to be overlapping, but subscribing to these calendars and putting it into your external calendar is going to be a really great way to make sure that you have a full view of everything else that's happening and related to content from multiple projects.
Amazing. Ashley, I'm going to have you share your screen one more time to get us to a card table project, because I do want to answer Ben's question, if I can find it. Is there a way to link to a document in one of these cards? The answer is yes, but I will let Ashley show you how to link to things within a Basecamp card table.
Yeah, there are two ways you can do it. And so if we go ahead and create a new card, what you'll see here is this editor. It's called a tricks editor, if you're curious, but this editor is something that you'll see in every single place that you can add text, primarily, mostly. So if I'm leaving a comment, you have these same options. If I'm creating a card, you have these options. So if I want to link to a document, and I can maybe include a PDF of whatever it is that I'm trying to discuss here with folks, that's definitely one way to do it. I really, really prefer to use Basecamp documents, and I would probably start off in Docs and Files, create a document, and here's my new document with any kind of information that we have here. We're just going to post it, and then I can copy this link. And you can do this on the app, on mobile, desktop, and so this is not exclusive to the browser. And then I'll go back to card table, and while we're creating this new card, in that same section, I can paste it, and it goes from a kind of jumbled link to a really pleasant looking link. So if I need to refer back to details or back to a message or even back to someone's campfire chat that they posted 3 weeks ago, we can paste that link and it'll show up nicely here.
Love that.
So clicking on it brings us right back to that space. And you can always kind of tell where you are by looking at these, what we call breadcrumbs. And so here I'm in logo art design and docs and files. But if I head back to that card, you can see there card table triage. So hopefully that helps.
And here at Basecamp, linking inside of projects is something that we do so often. So almost anytime you're posting a message, you want to refer to something else, we are hyperlinking to another place within a Basecamp project just to make it easy on everyone so you can easily see what we're referring to. Okay, question about reporting. So the question is, we want to know how we can pull reporting. We want to pull weekly reporting, how many new to-dos, etc. So Basecamp does not have an automatic reporting download, but there is something that we can show you in the navigation bar. Ashley, I'll let you take that over, showing activity. Maybe that might help some of those activity reports.
I think so. I think it'll definitely help. So if I click on activity at the top of the page, this is where I can see Basecamp pulling together information from all the projects that I have access to. So if someone is on your account and they only have access to maybe one project and you have access to 10, what you see on this page is going to be different. And so what you can do, each of you, is click on, for example, to-dos added and completed. And this is where I can see how many to-dos were added. If I complete one, it kind of moves over. Let's get these checked off and go back to activity and over, oh, not that one, back to to-dos and added and completed. Then I can see both on each side. And it'll stay organized by project. So here's that test project that we created. There's the logo art design, home renovations. This is all happening today. So this is how you probably see, probably one of the best ways to see things that are happening across the entire account. However, I did have a conversation with someone this morning about how we could maybe use cards for this. And so they talked about having maybe one card table per person. And I thought that was an interesting way to see what that individual has done for that card table. And so that way, when they click on done, they can see a full idea of what was completed on what day. So that may be another way that you could consider working if card tables are appealing to you. Otherwise, to-dos added and completed.
Thank you, Ashley. We're going to jump back to changing tools, which is how do you set up multiple schedules within a project?
Great question. So those same three dots that we clicked on earlier, and then on change tools. And so when I scroll down a little bit to this schedule tool, I can click on the add another button, and that you'll see it's on every other tool as well. But here's where I can create that second tool. And let's go back to the project. And now we have two different schedules. And maybe in this one, I'm going to rename this tool to Client A Content Calendar, whatever it is. So then we have a little bit of differentiation between the two. And I can, of course, rename this one if we wanted using those three dots. Oftentimes, click on those three dots and see what's possible because they're very functional and they're there to just kind of add a lot more options for you.
And one of the things I think that's great about having multiple calendars when you divide up your work in that way is that you can subscribe to different calendars. You can choose which ones you're subscribed to and will show up on your personal calendar. Right there with that link that Ashley talked about earlier. While we're on calendars, I'm going to jump to this next one, which is, can we create a calendar that is visible to all users, but only one or two people can edit or add events? We want to create a calendar with an email sending option. I believe the answer to that is no, that when you create a calendar, everyone can see it, edit, add to it.
That is true. That is very true. However, when those things are edited, you can tell. So you know when someone has edited some kind of event. And so here, if I don't know if there's a way for me to show it here without someone else logging in, but the ultimate point is that we have an event. We can go ahead and post it. And then if someone were to even just adjust the time, that would show up here above the comments section. It would kind of create its own space of like, this has occurred. Kind of in the same way that we saw the card table. Anytime that you see a movement in the card table, as I move it from triage to figuring it out, above the comment section, there is that movement. And so the event would have that same function. And so there is no way to really stop someone that you've invited into this project to from editing whatever it is that's happening here, but you can always know when they're doing that. So hopefully that helps too.
Great. We're going to jump to documents. Ashley, I feel like this is a quiz. Like, quick fire. She knows all the answers, which is great. But someone's asking, Mitchell, if you create a Basecamp document, can I send a link to that document to somebody outside of Basecamp? And I think this is a good example of things you can do throughout the project, not just with a document, but some other things as well.
Here's the copy of the report that we're writing. And so if we can imagine that I have a lot of words here. Whatever it is that you are putting into this space, you can make sure that that is going to be visible to someone outside of Basecamp by clicking again on those three dots and then on getting a public link. And so this makes it so that anyone in the world can really see whatever it is that you're sharing with them. So as I send this to someone else, there's that report, and there's my wonderful words there are also going to be visible. But what's not going to be visible is a comment. So it's visible to us on the internal side. We have login access. We can do all of that. But if I refresh the page, there's really no way to see comments on anything that you share with a public link outside of Basecamp. So your conversations remain private. But if you have something that you want to share with someone, put it in the body of whatever that message is. Or maybe it's a to-do list. They still can't see those comments. They just kind of see the bare bones version. And this function is available for paid accounts only. So if you're not seeing it just yet, that's because there's no card on file, for example. But otherwise, that is the only feature that we actually hold back. And that's mostly from a spam prevention standpoint. But this has just been super, super wonderful for folks that don't really want to include people in their Basecamp account, either for their own reasons or if their, for example, client just can't handle another login. That's okay. We have this option for them. They can remain email only, but we can still keep our work in Basecamp.
That's actually, I feel like, a hidden feature as well. That it's great. It's a great one. Okay, we're going to jump to a question about viewing. What's the best way to view all to-dos, no matter who they're assigned to, and all scheduled events in a project or account? One view to see all of the things.
I think activity is your closest roundup for that. But to see all to-dos across all projects, there isn't really a wonderful view for that. I can see it based on individual. So if I want to see everything that, for example, Kimberly has assigned to her, then I can see all of those assignments for Kimberly across all those projects. But otherwise, I can just click into whatever the project is and click on to-dos. And that's going to bring up all of the different things that are happening in this project that I can check in on if I'd like to. And you might be seeing it in this view. You might be seeing it in as a list view. They are the same thing. But this is kind of the, you want to see what's happening in a project specifically, going to that project is going to be the best way to kind of get that view.
And we had someone in a demo recently ask a similar question, and they were okay with assigning all of the to-dos to themselves, so it showed up on their own calendar. I think that might be a little excessive, but if you wanted that view, if you assigned everything to yourself, then it would show up on your own activity or your own scheduled of to-dos.
Otherwise, if you have a bunch of to-dos, whether they're assigned or not, and they all have a due date, then those will show up on activity and on upcoming dates across all projects. So that might be another way to kind of make sure that you have a visual track of everything. And if you are assigning those out to other people, you can also click on My Stuff, My Assignments, and it primarily does mean, things that are assigned to you, but it also means things that you've assigned out to other people. And so maybe a combination of these different views can kind of accomplish what you're looking for.
And I could see that case of looking at that stuff I've assigned if you're managing the project and assigning the to-dos out to your team, but still want to see where the status of all those items are. You'll see, as you're seeing on the screen now, what is past due, how long it's been past due, what's coming up. All of those will show up on that screen, which could be helpful. Ashley, while you have your computer open, will you go to basecamp.com/extras for me? And we will get to Andrew's question about third-party plugins. So Basecamp does not have Gantt charts, but we do have some third-party tools that other people have created that integrate with Basecamp.
Gantify is going to be your main one for a direct integration, because what we have is a public API, and that just means that you can create a way to kind of deal with actions and triggers in Basecamp so that your account shows specific things and maybe translates out to something else. It's a little complicated. So if that is maybe a bit beyond you, or if you don't feel like doing developer work right now, look into Zapier. Zapier has a ton. Let's do Zapier Basecamp. If we look at the integrations that they have, you can just search to see what integrations that work directly with Basecamp. So for example, if you book a call with me, I'm going to send you a link to Calendly. And when you click on confirm, and now that that's completely booked, it's going to make an event in Basecamp because I've set it up through Zapier. So you can definitely look into some of these and see how we might connect with plenty of other platforms. So for Gantt charts, if you know that you want to use something different than Gantify, then you can look into Zapier and see what might work with Basecamp.
And that link again is basecamp.com/extras. Will get you to a list of third-party tools that integrate with Basecamp. Ben, we're going to answer your question about doors. This is a feature that we love. It's a way you can add an outside service as a link into your Basecamp project, and I will let Ashley walk you through that.
Yeah, doors are wonderful. Again, we are going to change tools, my favorite place. And so when I click on open a door to an external link, it's going to be right above all the tools that we're used to seeing. So very easy to scroll past, but click on it. And then you have a lot of options of things that will sit alongside all your other tools. So in a project, maybe I want to link to, like we mentioned, Calendly, or maybe I have a Google Sheet that I want folks to be able to see all the time. We actually do have a Google Sheet here, so I'm going to take this one. All I'm doing is grabbing the link from this location, and then I'm going back to my door. And so I'm going to choose the Google Sheets option and paste it. And as I add this door, while this isn't a direct integration, this is a really great way to have everything that you need for this project in one location. And so I can just click on this link, and it takes me directly to that Google Sheets that we were just looking at, that particular file. And so you can be very specific about the file, or maybe you want to change the tools and the clients that you're working for, they're using some other platform. Maybe they're using Teams or Notion or something like that. You can link out to that. Or maybe they're using something you've never heard of before in your life. Then you can click on external service and then paste the link to whatever that is. And I'll just paste a random one here, Basecamp link. And you can add this door. And so now when I scroll down, I see it just kind of blank as external service, but I can give both of these a little bit more detail if that would make sense for our team. I can also make it visible to the client. So here, make it visible to the client. Oh, great, really beautiful. And then you can also edit this so that it has a kind of description. So if I want someone to click on this every day so that they can log something specific, they can do that. There is also one last thing with doors that I want to show you, in that you can link to another project within Basecamp or anything within Basecamp. So if I'm running an admin team and we have a hiring project, I can use a door to kind of almost nest a project within another one. And then here I am in hiring where we have a client. So hopefully that helps too.
And Ben, I know you're asking specifically about linking to Help Scout. So if you saw in that door, Help Scout is one of those kind of pre-populated options. And it's going to link to whichever URL you choose. So if you're linking to a specific mailbox, it would go there. You could link to a specific ticket, honestly, if you wanted to. But it's wherever you choose, whatever URL you're putting in that link is what's going to link out.
Yep.
And just to add one little additional tip, if you wanted to layer in Zapier with the door to Help Scout, you could have new tickets triggered through Zapier to add a to-do. And then that, whoever's on that team could then go through the door to check on the Help Scout tickets. So you won't necessarily be able to pull those tickets into your project, but you will be able to prompt the team or otherwise alert them through a variety of Zapier zaps is what they're called. And you can get by really far with their free account. So just a way to layer some of those behaviors together.
Thanks for that, Laura. Mitchell, do you have to be an admin to open a door? I actually don't know the answer to that. Yes, you have to at least be an account owner?
No, anyone
I don't
know. Anyone can. Anyone who you add to the account as a employee or a colleague, or as a collaborator, partner, contractor, guest. So these two options, these folks will have as many kind of permissions as you do. So folks can link out to doors as under these two options. It's just clients that when they log into an account, they don't see those change tools option. They just have the option to pin it to home. So it's just these first two. So anyone that you add can pretty much have that functionality.
I actually did know that. I just temporarily forgot it. I think that we answered this question earlier about privacy settings. Again, to set someone up as a client, you can pick and choose what parts of any project they see. So if there's anything that you want to hide from them, including a door, setting them up as a client is the way to do it. And as Ashley mentioned, it doesn't have to be a client. We use that word. It could be a group of employees that you want to have permissions for. We've seen teachers setting up students as clients, people setting up executives in their company as clients if they can only see parts of a project. So don't let that word mess you up. But anyone that you want to turn on or off features in Basecamp or what they can access, you'd want to set them up as that client feature.
Perfect.
You guys, our question and answer queue is empty, and we have just a couple minutes left. Just kidding. Ben, what you got for us? Someone who is just following a project can still fully edit everything in the project, correct? Mm-hmm. That is correct. Is there any way to set up a project where they can follow but not be able to edit everything? We don't want some people to be able to edit certain things. Yeah, Basecamp in general is very much a free, everyone has access to pretty much everything unless you are on the client side. And Ashley, jump in if I've missed anything on that.
Mm-hmm. It's a very trusting platform, I'd say. So there isn't a lot in terms of restricting folks once they are in this project. This is more for clarifying who is doing the work here. And it's also for reducing the volume of notifications. And so I think what generally tends to help, and in my many years of being at Basecamp, what really does help is having something that's like very clearly listed out. My expectations for you is that we kindly do not edit the documents, or whatever it is that we want them not to do. And that has worked maybe 99.5% of the time. So that's been a solid suggestion. It almost feels like, maybe too simple that it shouldn't work, but it actually has worked for 22 years. And so we hope that folks kind of just adhere to the expectations that we set out for them.
Ashley, lineup tool.
Love.
So that is you're going to find the lineup in your navigation bar, but for anything to show up on the lineup, you have to set dates on a project. So I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, and you can do this when you create a new project, or you can do it after the fact. So when I click on a project, again with those three dots, you click on Edit Project Details, and this is where you can decide, all right, when did this project begin? Let's say it began on nobody worked then, on the 3rd. And so it maybe goes until the 31st. And maybe I want to describe that this is only phase 2. So if I have a project that lasts a year and a half, 2 years, you can still use the lineup and feel like, you know what, I can break this out into smaller pieces. And so I'm going to save those changes. And then that gives you that timeline at the top of your project. And so now we have plenty of information here, the title of the project, the client company, and then we have this timeline. And so we're kind of just past that first quarter. And what's nice about this is that if I want to see this project alongside any others that have that start and end date as well, I can click on lineup. And then now I can see logo art design here goes until the 31st. A project that started maybe a month beforehand ends about a month before my current project. So there's a nice way to see anything that's happening across the account in this kind of 10,000 foot view. And it's going to be disconnected and intentionally disconnected from the schedule. So you won't see that lineup show up here. Of course, if your campaign is from the 1st to the 15th, that span date that we created earlier, that's going to be here. But it's going to be separate from the lineup, which is meant to be like, I'm looking out of the plane and I can, the cars are but dots. And here I can really see the details of those things. So hopefully that helps explain the lineup.
And also, you're only going to see events or projects on your lineup for projects you're invited to. So even if you're the account holder and you have 18 projects on your account, you'll see lineups for those that have dates. But if you're only invited to 3, only 3 are going to show up on your lineup. So just like everything else, you're only seeing projects that you're invited to. Same thing for clients. They're not going to see anything else on any other lineup unless they're invited to that project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, before we wrap up, Ashley, will you show us a brand new feature in Basecamp, message scheduling?
Yes, I love it so much. It's so great. Not during work hours, sometimes inspiration is there, and that's wonderful. But if you're working remotely, or if you're in any kind of environment and you're using Basecamp, you might have the words come to you at 9 p.m. and then you want to write your announcement. Maybe we have a new process, and I want to make sure everyone is fully aware of that process, and maybe I want them to boost this to show me that you've read and comprehended this. And so what I can do, we've always been able to save a draft and we've always been able to post a message, but now there is this little clock over here, and I can schedule this to post. Likely tomorrow at 9 a.m. would be ideal, but I can get really specific about when I want this to happen. And I think this is just going to be a wonderful feature for folks to experiment with and explore, so that if you know people are generally going to be out on Monday because it's a holiday, then we can make sure that this comes out on Tuesday at the exact right time. Perhaps 9 is a little much. We'll do 10 a.m. and schedule and save. And as it notes here, these messages to be posted later, you can find them anytime in my draft. So you don't have to remember where it was that you had written this one thing at one time late at night. You can just always click on my stuff and my drafts, and you can get to that process. And it will tell you very clearly, this is going to be posted on February 7th at 9 a.m. And so this is brand new, I believe, extremely new. Kimberly, when did this come out?
I think yesterday. It's very new.
So there are lots of fun things about Basecamp 4. So I don't know if anyone here is in Basecamp Classic or Basecamp 2, but one of the best things about Basecamp 4 is that our team has grown so much now that we're really able to get these really cool either small features or huge features like card table out at a much more rapid pace than they used to be. So it's a very different company.
Very exciting. Well, we're about to wrap up. Last question coming in. Laura, I'm going to tee you up for this one. Where do we find out about these office hours?
Yeah, this is a new process for us. So we are kind of figuring that as we go. So full transparency. I don't have an answer for you exactly yet, but we will be announcing them in a couple of, I would say probably another 6 weeks or so. We'll be announcing another round of office hours. And so because we're always learning, we'd love to hear from you. What worked? Is there anything specific you'd like to see next time? Are there anything industries wise, anything specific at all? Questions, feedback, please share them with us so we can kind of provide the information in a variety of ways that helps you be successful.
Thank you for joining us for this one. We're so excited to have you here. Like I said, this recording will be saved and you can find it back on the same link that you came to once it's all processed. So if you want to direct any of your teammates to it, we would love that. And as always, if you have any questions for us, for our team, that question mark when you're in Basecamp, the bottom right corner of your screen, not only gets you to the help guides, but also to the support team. So if you write in a question, you'll hear back from one of the 3 of us or Rodrigo on our team, and we'll